In this moment before death, I am happy. Lewis doesn't understand, but as I stand here on the beach looking out to sea, he is in the water, only his head and shoulders visible, the little waves buffeting him, and beyond him the sunset, yes, truly beautiful, as he had said minutes ago when I was swimming with him. He pulled me towards him, put his arms around me from behind and said, "Look, Sylvie, isn't the sunset beautiful? We could be anywhere, the Bahamas, Greece, Africa." And he was right. I was already stumbling towards infinity. I felt strange and said quietly that I was going in. And now I'm here, at that point before my brain shuts down, just before it is clotted with blood. And in my line of vision is the man who rebirthed me, who gave me a second lease of life, a second chance of happiness. When you reach your 40s, you stop believing in love as a life force, as something which can knock you off your feet, start the universe spinning again. Love had become generalized, watered down, a lukewarm emotion. The first years with Andreas, when our son Carl was young, we were undeniably in love. We moved frequently, but each new place was a challenge. We transformed dozens of rooms, painted them white, hung a tapestry on the wall. It became home for a month or two, then we'd move again, modern gypsies. But when we settled, as we had to, for Carl, and because deep down we had instilled in us that value system which dictates marriage, children, stability, that is when it changed. The colours dulled, love became monotonous, a habit, and then walked out. After years of struggling with each other, years of bickering and arguments, one morning Andreas took his lunch and a second-hand paperback, left for work without muttering goodbye, and never came back. Lewis, who is turning towards me, his hands skimming the surface of the water, puzzlement starting to stretch across his face. Lewis knew my history instinctively, for it was akin to his own. I met him when I had nothing left, when Carl had grown up and set off on his own path. Inside I was already dead, and Carl's departure barely registered. It was like waving him off for school, never considering he might not return. All that remained, I thought, as I dragged around the almost empty flat, the walls stained with poverty, the sofa collapsed and forlorn, the carpet showing pattern baldness. All that I had before me was 30 years of solitary confinement, a life sentence, and the only means to numb that dreadful prospect, to shrink it to nothingness, was the bottle. It was all I knew, following the direction my father had taken, my Father who art in heaven and insults me still. Until Lewis crashed into me as I was crawling in my pit of self-pity. Lewis, who crashed through me, pulled me up, set me on my feet again, and pointed me in the direction of the sunset, whose radiance is invading me. In this split second, everything is clear to me. I feel every grain of sand beneath my feet, and I know Lewis can feel this too. In our 6 years together we have merged. He took me beyond my fear of the world to create our own hermetic universe. The flat became our shrine, the garden our little bit of paradise. He stilled the voices in me, my father's insults which I believed and heard even years after his death. Scatterbrain, idiot, stupid little girl. Together we set the bottle aside. Sometimes Lewis says, we both have tartan pasts, and I like to think we wrapped each other in these blankets, protecting each other from the cold outside. Today we came to the coast because the weather has been so fine and hot, days on end of shimmering heat. On the coach down to the seaside, Lewis held my hand and we sat close together despite the sweltering heat. This is the only trip we have ever made. The comfort of being together has been enough. But the unusual heat made me adventurous, made me long to see the ocean again, to swim in the sea again. When I was a child, we would spend 2 weeks in the summer at the seaside, and I was happiest then, before my father learned to hate me. In the sea, I had the sense of being part of something vast, but it wasn't scary. The waves sustained me, and I spent hours splashing, diving, playing in this immense pool. For those 2 weeks, the sea was my private domain. This moment has been perfect. It has held the memory of our time in the sea. I sank into the water and it enclosed me, and Lewis stretched his arms out to support me, and we swam together, gentle strokes, side by side. I lift my hand to wave goodbye to Lewis, but already I am disconnected from my body. The movement is small, pathetic. Lewis will read it as a gesture for help. He will come racing out of the sea, panic building in him, but my vision is frozen on the image of him swelled up by the water. Behind him, the magnificent sunset, red, glowing red, like my brain.